Let's just do a little bit quick on Syria right now, because it seems to me, by every estimation, it's no longer a country under any circumstances that we consider a functioning country. And it seems to me that we're at this point also basically just in a proxy war, we, the United States, pretty much in a proxy war with Russia. Am I completely oversimplifying it at this point?
Well, no. I mean, it's not quite a proxy war with Russia. It's something else. Look, the truth is that Syria is the end of Syria, the end game in Syria, as it were, which I think we probably are in now, is the end game that Assad and the Iranians always wanted, which is Assad against ISIS. Because if it's Assad against ISIS, they know that the world will not back ISIS. And earlier this year, Assad was interviewed by Jeremy Bowen of the BBC, and Assad talked about the opposition as these terrorists of ISIS. And, some years ago, he wouldn't have been able to get away with that so much. He still can't completely get away with that line now, but some years ago, he certainly couldn't. I knew and worked with some members of the Syrian opposition more than 15 years ago, I think, to begin with, and knew that there were people who were very good, who wanted their country not to be run by the Bashar al-Assad family forever, and wanted Syria to be the great country it could be. All of their hopes have gone. Most of those people are dead now. And Assad has got what he wanted. The Iranians have got what they wanted. No one will back ISIS, quite rightly. So in the end, will allow Assad to remain in power. Look, this is, to some extent, what happens when we don't take any interest and don't really get involved. I've always been against us intervening in any major way in Syria for one reason in particular, which was that I always said that after Iraq and Afghanistan, we should realize that we clearly don't have the desire, the willpower, or produce the people anymore in your country or mine who want to spend, 20 or 30 years in this country, governing bits of it, helping with infrastructure problems or anything else. We're good at going in and doing the first phase, but we're no good at the follow-up, and we should realize that.
Since the end of the 20th century, European and American leaders have somehow gotten it in their mind that they are meant to act as the world police. America has military bases all over the world, and anytime something as tiny as a firework goes off in the Middle East, European and American leaders are quick to give their opinions and order boots on the ground. But as time has shown, that approach is not only dumb, it ends up causing even more strife. Everyone in the Pentagon and on Downing Street and elsewhere celebrated the Arab Spring. Even the name it got was celebratory in nature. The Arab Spring sounds refreshing and optimistic, right? Well, what did the Arab Spring create? Nothing but dead factionalized states filled with armed rebels on every corner street. Ironically, by supporting the Arab Spring in Libya, the Western world inadvertently created a slave market where up to 50,000 people are held in captivity. The intrusion of Western nations into the politics of the Middle East hasn't only created badly broken states, it has also created a mass immigration crisis that now threatens to wipe out the whole of Europe. Some may call it karma. Here is what Douglas Murray calls it.
Do something, everyone hates us, and if we don't do anything, everyone hates us. Is that the ultimate irony here?
Well, it's an irony. There are many others as well. But yes, I mean, it is true that when America acts, it gets blamed, and when it doesn't act, it gets blamed. And sometimes that blame is worth listening to, and sometimes it isn't. I mean, to some extent, you have to listen to who it comes from, I would say. When people who criticize America or her allies or a country like Britain do so as helpful critics, you can usually tell. And when people criticize America or Britain or any other country and they're speaking as enemies, you can also tend to tell. There are lots of things that we can learn from this period. I would think it would be very regrettable if America decided that the response to all of this would be that America would decide, well, no one ever loved us anyway, so we're going home. You won't have America to kick around anymore, sort of Lacrymo's Jeb Bush-like line. I hope that America doesn't take that view, but Obama, as I hope everyone also learns the lesson of Obama on this. I mean, Obama's predecessor found all sorts of ways to mark out the Middle East, but Obama has as well, wholly new ways in some ways. Obama was meant to be the president who brought the troops home and brought peace in the Middle East. And, he did a bit of that, but he certainly hasn't brought peace any more than the waters receded and all that other stuff. It's been a very, I think the Obama presidency, at the end of it, people will realize not that his predecessors were terrific and that he wasn't or anything, but that the noblest aspirations can all go wrong in wholly different ways.
And it has gone wrong in a very different way here in Syria. When the West started funding rebels in Syria, it hoped it would create a change of regime that would lead to a proper democracy. After all, the Syrian revolution was a result of the brutal crushing of a pro-democracy uprising. Today, Assad has fled Syria, and the West has accomplished its change of regime plans, but it hasn't exactly gotten the regime it specifically wanted. The new leader of Syria is presumable al-Jilani, a man that the CIA placed on a wanted list for terrorism as recently as 2016. His group, the HTS, is a terror group prescribed in most Western nations, and al-Jilani, the leader of the group, was a terrorist who proudly proclaimed his desire to go to war against the West and its allies. He used to lead an organization that was affiliated with al-Qaeda, but has been hard at work building a tolerant image for himself. After running Assad out of town, al-Jilani told religious minorities in Syria that his government would respect their rights and allow them practice their religion in peace. But there remains one stumbling block on al-Jilani's part. His organization remains prescribed in the West, but that will probably change soon. But will that stop the refugee crisis in Europe? Will peace in Syria stop middle-aged men from claiming asylum? Here is what Douglas Murray thinks.
And the Southern Europeans, Italians, and the Greeks in particular have been asking for help for a very long time. And if you go, as I did earlier this year, to the island of Lampedusa in the south of Italy, it's nearer to Libya than it is to anything else in Italy, including Sicily. You can see the graves of migrants who tried to get over, going back 15 years or more. So it is quite a long developing story. It's true that every year in recent years, when you get towards the summer months, there's a surge. Obviously, it's easier to cross the waters during those months. This is, by the way, this is such a hugely complex story, and it's one that really we're all getting wrong. It's a classic example of the sort of Twitter age not being really fit for purpose, because this is one of the most extraordinary and vast migrations that we've seen, and it's being misunderstood by almost everybody. The majority of the migrants who are coming into Europe are not from Syria. The Syrians comprise a minority of the migrants. You can pick your percentages. Some people think it's now around 20%, some people up to 40%. It varies, obviously, between the points of entry. But the vast majority are coming from all over the world. There are people from Bangladesh. There are people from coming from farther east than that. There are people, the majority, I would think, by my own observation, are coming from sub-Saharan Africa. So when you hear statesmen saying, and pundits and others saying, well, we need to solve Syria, for instance, and then we'll solve the migrant crisis, these people don't know what they're talking about. Even if it was in America or Britain or any other country's gift to solve the humanitarian catastrophe of Syria, that would only solve a part of the migrant crisis. What's your plan for Eritrea? Has anyone got one? Has anyone thought of one? Can anyone point to Eritrea on a map?
Yeah.
British politicians may hope that recognizing the HTS and al-Jilani would solve its migration problems, but it simply won't. Even if Syrians stop coming, the vast majority of migrants are economic migrants, not refugees. And as far as the economies and living conditions of their home nations are bad, they will continue to see Europe as an economic zone they can freely emigrate to with unlimited benefits. Who can blame them? European politicians are the ones offering this deal. Most people outside Europe would be insane not to take it. It is the deal that the elites of Europe are offering. Not just the politicians, the entertainers, the scientists, the capitalists. Everyone is offering that deal without the leave of the European people. Here is the argument Douglas Murray makes.
One of my compatriots was on stage in London the other night, finished a performance of Hamlet, and berated the crowd and berated British politicians for not bringing in enough people. That is the clever, caring thing to say at the moment. We must open our doors. Refugees welcome. Do you know what? In the UK, a recent poll showed only 7% of the British people want immigration into the UK to increase. 7%. It's the same across Europe. People don't mind accepting genuine refugees, but no one knows what to do with the number of refugees, genuine refugees who are coming. And absolutely nobody knows, including Chancellor Merkel, who, having saved Europe in the financial crisis, has now totally floundered on the refugee crisis. Angela Merkel doesn't know what to do. The European Commission just recently tried to force quotas on European countries to take migrants they couldn't and didn't want to take. And as the European Commission issued that, they admitted that number they were talking about was not fit for purpose because the number was so much higher. What I'm trying to convey is this is a continent-wide catastrophe which we are at the beginning of. And I think, as I say, we haven't even begun to rise to it. And we're going to see, I think, terrible things. Winter's coming. Sweden is now putting refugees in tents because it's run out of properties. Sweden took the view, let's show the world how generous we are. Let's be, they said, a humanitarian superpower. Now they're going to have to raise taxes. They've got increasing public opinion against them. And the top party in the polls in Sweden, the humanitarian hyperpower of Sweden, is the party that's generally called far right.
The incredible thing is that this interview was 9 years ago, and things are even much worse today. Far-right parties all over Europe are rising. And there is a real chance that Reform UK may have an outside shot at choosing UK's next Prime Minister. Despite all of it, European elites are yet to wake up. If you enjoyed this video and loved watching Douglas Murray, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons and watch out for more videos.